This is what I see a lot of riders do, is when they want to walk, they go like that. So you could see how when I was not properly engaged, my horse all of a sudden came above the bit and dropped his back, and his hind legs went out behind him. Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to give you 3 tips to engage your horse's hind end. I know we hear all the time, like, we want our horse's hind legs more engaged, we want more activity behind, we want the front end elevated, but sometimes when you're riding it can be really hard to figure out how to get this part of your horse to actually lower and engage. Also, I'm doing a free webinar on pirouettes. Check out the description box. Pirouettes are probably the ultimate test of engagement. They're a beautiful movement. They're so fun to ride. So I'm going to be giving some tips for your pirouettes during that webinar. First thing to consider is, what is engagement? So engagement is basically where your horse takes more weight behind and where they flex all the joints in their hind end. So we want them to actually flex at the SI joint. Let me turn him this way. So when your horse engages, we want them to flex up here at the SI joint. That's what tilts their pelvis underneath of them. We also want to see their hip joint, their stifle joint, and their hocks flex and come more forward and under. It's also important when we talk about engagement that it has to do with the weight-bearing stance of the stride, that we actually want to see them take more weight and kind of sit on that leg while it's bent more. So that's the textbook definition. Now let's get practical and talk about what you can do to help your horse engage. The first thing that I always consider is rider position, because the way that you sit on your horse is either going to help your horse to engage their hind end, or it's going to make your horse difficult to engage their hind end. So you need to be looking up and sitting back to get your horse to engage their hind end. If you are leaning forward like this and pulling on the reins, it's going to put your horse on the forehand. It's going to be impossible for them to engage their hind end. So step 1 is to get your eyes up, because this will help to get your head back and your whole body back. If you're looking down at your horse, it's going to put your weight on the forehand. So look up, shoulders back, and then engage your lower abs. So just like we want our horse to engage their hind end and their core, we have to think about engaging our core and our legs. One thing that you can do to get this feeling is to kind of go shh. Like if you make that noise, shh, what you'll feel is your lower abdominals contract, and that's the feeling of engagement that you as the rider want to have. So whenever you think, I would need my horse more engaged, eyes up and engage your lower abs. So that's tip number 1. Now the second thing that I'm going to do to get him to engage his hind end more is I'm going to ride transitions between the walk and the trot on a circle line. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick up a nice easy trot, and I'm just going to go here on the circle line. I like to do my walk-trot transitions on a circle line because the circle line helps to get him connected from inside leg to outside rein, and that helps to keep the inside hind leg engaged. So now I'm looking up, I'm engaging my lower abs. I'm going to put him in a little shoulder 4. I'm going to half halt with my outside rein and transition to the walk. So I'm keeping him in a little shoulder 4 positioning through these transitions. That adds an extra level of engagement where the horse is really engaging on the inside hind leg. Good boy, buddy. And then what you want to focus on with these walk-trot transitions to really get the hind end engaged is the frame. So I really want to focus, like there he came a tiny bit up in the frame. I really want to focus that his frame stays exactly the same, that he's not coming above the bit and that he's not curling behind the bit. I'm also focusing, especially in the downward transition, that I'm really making the transition happen from my seat. I'm keeping my eyes up. I'm keeping my core engaged. to help keep his core engaged. So let me change direction and do this the other way. You definitely want to do your walk-trot transitions in both directions because you're always working a little bit more the inside hind leg. So again, I'm keeping him in a little shoulder fore. I'm half halting. I'm closing my legs. Good boy. Every transition that you make is requiring your horse to push a little off the hind leg. So that is why these simple walk-trot transitions are a really good way to get your horse engaged and to get your horse using their top line. Now I'm going to show you an incorrect transition where I am not staying engaged in my body correctly. So this is what I see a lot of riders do is when they want to walk, they go like that. So you could see how when I was not properly engaged, my horse all of a sudden came above the bit and dropped his back and his hind legs went out behind him. So it's really, really important that you make sure you're giving your horse the correct aids and that you are using the correct muscles. Good boy, Mercurio. Okay, so that's 2 exercises. Now the third exercise that we're going to use to work on engagement is a little bit more of an advanced exercise, and that is the Rein-Back. So I definitely recommend that you always want to teach the Rein-Back from the ground first, because the Rein-Back is a movement that isn't supernatural for horses, and so it's always easier if you can do it from the ground first to get your horse to understand the aids. So what you want to do is you want to start off by just getting a nice halt, and then I just think about closing my knees a little bit, and if I had wheels going backwards in my hips, boy, that would be what would get him to back up. So that wasn't the world's best Rein-Back. He did go back, but it was a little bit reluctant, and you could see that he came a little bit above the bit. He got a little bit braced in my hands. So I'm just going to trot again, really focus on getting the connection that I want. Boy, forward, walk, halt, boy, close my knees a little. Good boy. That was better in self-carriage because he wasn't pulling on my hands. And the reason that the Rein-Back is a super exercise for engagement is because it forces your horse, or I shouldn't say force, but to do a Rein-Back correctly, your horse has to rotate their pelvis underneath of them. Good boy. So it's an exercise that gets your horse to engage very naturally. The other thing that's great about the Rein-Back is it's a movement that's not a lot of wear and tear on your horse. So for example, things like extended trot and extended canter, those are a lot of wear and tear on your horse. But Rein-Back is something that you can practice a lot without worrying that you're going to tear a tendon or that your horse is pounding on their front feet. Good boy. And trot again. Good boy. So if you're having trouble with the Rein-Back, I definitely recommend, good boy, that you practice the Rein-Back from the ground first. I always teach that from the ground. So I hope you've enjoyed these 3 tips to work on engagement. Also, please come to the Pirouette webinar. Pirouettes are another really great exercise to work on getting your horse to engage their hind end. And it's an amazing feeling when you feel your horse's hind end lower and they start to take the weight behind and you really have the power behind you and the shoulders lifting. It's an amazing feeling. So if you like this video, it would help me out a lot if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Most of you actually aren't subscribed to the channel that watch these videos, and it really helps me out. The more subscribers we have, the more I can go after my mission, which is dressage for all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday.
you.